Hi, boys and girls!
In Native Son, the issue of inequality between men and women is a prominent theme throughout the story. Bessie and Mary both encounter inequalities within their lives, but even among these two women, there can still be observed a complex society in which cultural elements further exacerbate racial and gender inequity. Within the context of the story, the wider indifference towards both of them as actual people is a commonality. Bessie's body is primarily used as a tool to inflame the public passions and fulfill Bigger's desires, whereas Mary's presumed rape matters much more than her actual death. This portrayal of a misogynistic society that has unjustly targeted women and minorities can still be seen today. Take the workplace, one of the most fundamental aspects of most individuals' lives. It is one medium through which this culture is still very prominent today. The quote we have chosen to discuss reveals Bessie as a victim to a culture and society that disables her from doing anything more than serving as a tool in one form or another. Sexual violence in Native Son particularly stands out among many conversation topics. Bessie finds herself helpless due to society's constraints and the normalization of misogynistic culture. As a result, the reader sees her being taken advantage of in multiple ways. Today, women are still being taken advantage of and experience unwelcome attacks, even in the workplace. Sexual harassment, unwelcome sexual advances, requests for sexual favors and/or other verbal or physical conduct of sexual nature has been a hot topic for many years and continues to be an issue. While this isn't uniquely applicable to women, the vast majority of sexual harassment has been targeted towards women. In a study conducted by the Association of Women for Action and Research, their findings highlight the stark disproportionality of women being targeted compared to men. The study found that 54% of all employees experienced some form of workplace sexual harassment. Of these victims, 80% were women. Another alarming finding from their study suggests an even larger problem of addressing sexual harassment or even acknowledging it in the first place. 2/3 of the employees surveyed were not aware of any policies regarding sexual harassment. Furthermore, only 50.4% indicated that they were aware of a department or resource person that they could approach on sexual harassment. Deborah Tannen, author of Talking from 9 to 5, Women and Men in the Workplace, attributes this inequity to a matter of perception. Tannen explores the idea of men and women possessing different understandings of the very essence of sexual harassment. She highlights a study in which individuals were asked to offer their opinion on a situation in which a female is driving home late at night in a taxi when the driver verbally berates her. The results that were yielded were unsurprisingly unanimous in accordance to gender. The surveyed women all felt that the driver's verbal assault at the woman constituted a serious offense for the taxi driver. Contrary, all the men asked agreed that yelling alone was not serious. The findings of the survey are similar to those of others that show that a majority of men do not believe sexual harassment has occurred unless a physical move has been cited, whereas women often include verbal moves in that category. Tannen ascribes this phenomenon to a constant sense of threat that most men do not constantly live with, and therefore do not understand. Tamar Segai, an Israeli psychologist, partnered with a team of American experts, maintains this position and further explores how sexual objectification has led to a culture in which sexual harassment has become normalized. She and her team were able to show that women who were asked to introduce themselves to an anonymous male partner spent far less time talking about themselves if they believed that their bodies were being checked out. Men had no such problem. Interestingly, neither did women, however, if they thought they were being inspected by another woman. This study is one of the first to thoroughly prove the social harms of sexual objectification. In the context of this study, sexual objectification was identified as the act of treating people as depersonalized objects of desire instead of as individuals with complex personalities. Segai explains her results that women who believe that men are focusing on their bodies tend to narrow their presence by, in this context, talking less, or practically speaking, becoming submissive to these occurrences. It targets women far more often than men, as this is often exhibited through magazine covers, music videos, and other forms of advertisements. Furthermore, women of color are sexually harassed more often than their white counterparts. Women of color tend to be victimized in many ways, particularly seen in low-level, low-paying jobs, where people in power can abuse their power. Nicole T. Buchanan of Michigan State University adds that racialized sexual harassment is the way women of color are uniquely harassed in ways that combine race and gender. White employees tend to feel superior. Coworkers are less respectful towards black women as the common perception of elitism over women of color becomes prevalent. Buchanan notes that sexual harassment is inextricably intertwined with racist attitudes, one example being the stereotype of black women being hypersexualized. Black women are more vulnerable in the workplace not only because of cultural norms, but economic inequality and organizational power. Because women of color tend to hold positions with less power, they are more likely to be harassed or victimized. There are also various cultural misconceptions or myths that perpetuate the idea that women of color enjoy or expect sexual attention. Despite many movements and acts to progress the status of women and promote equality, we still see many instances of this today. For example, Roger Ailes, former Fox executive and CEO, was very recently exposed to having abused his power in promoting misogynistic culture. This investigation into the culture that Bessie hints at reveals an ongoing issue that has manifested itself in many forms throughout the years.